Hello and welcome to the new episode of EBEA Consulting podcast with Miguel Bono-Tur, Director of China Operations and Transoft Solutions in Shanghai. Being heavily involved with the aviation business unit, Miguel manages the company's operations and works on developing new product strategies. Coming from his extensive experience in terminal capacity analysis projects, as well as training and workshops, all using simulation, we will take a closer look at the role and functionalities of the fast time simulation tools. Hello, Miguel, and welcome to EBEA Consulting podcast. It is a pleasure to have you here with us today. I'm looking forward to our today's conversation. Hi.
Hi, Hubert. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Before we begin with our discussion and talking points, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your aviation career?
Sure. So let's start from the beginning then. So my name is Miguel Bono-Tur. I am from Spain, but I've been living in Shanghai, China for over 10 years. I did my master's in computer science, engineering, and operations research in 3 different universities: at the Polytechnic University of Valencia in Spain, at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, the NTNU in Norway, and at Tongji University in China, where I actually did my final master's thesis about how to improve transportation logistics. After delivering my thesis, I liked China so much that I decided to stay in Shanghai. That was about August 2009. And then I started working for an IT company there. Then in 2010, there was a great opportunity from the Spanish Ministry of Economic Affairs, and I was selected to enter a program to study Chinese economy, language, and culture at the University of International Business and Economics in Beijing. And then I moved from Shanghai to Beijing. Then later, after the program finished, I went back to Shanghai, where I picked up my previous job there for a while. And then in May 2012, I joined Aviation Research Corporation, and I officially we can say that I officially started my aviation career there. My initial task at the Aviation Research Corporation was to manage the development of Archbird, which, as you know, was later acquired by Transoft Solutions in 2016. Regarding my experience in the aviation, like my main domain is airport terminal and landside simulation, but I have also great experience in airside simulation as well. I actively participated and led numerous terminal capacity analysis projects, trainings, workshops, all using fast time simulation. And during all these years, since I started, I've been dealing with civil aviation authorities, government officials, and other airport stakeholders all around the globe.
You definitely have been a very busy man. That's quite impressive background and bio that you shared with us. And regarding the current role that you have, could you please tell us what it involves?
Yes. So at the moment, currently I'm the director China operations at Transoft Solutions in Shanghai. So one of the tasks I have is to manage the local China team and the operations in the region. But I'm also involved on the company's operations in the APAC region. And definitely, given my background, I am also heavily involved in developing new product strategies within our aviation business unit.
I'm sure we will touch on that aspect as well, because it will be interesting to hear firsthand from you what is there that we can expect and where you are headed. But before we do that, however, and given the fact that Transoft Solutions is the software provider of and owner of Archbird that we at EBEA use quite extensively as well, can you please introduce us a little bit to the fast time simulation in general and the benefits of tools like Archbird?
Yes, so I think at this point, almost everyone in the aviation industry is familiar with fast time simulation and why fast time simulation is necessary in the industry. Focusing on Archbird, right? Archbird is a fast time simulation that is focused on the analysis of passengers, baggage, and vehicle movement. It is divided into two modules. We have the terminal module, which also includes the baggage handling system, and we have the landside module, which is the road access to the terminal. It allows the user to analyze and optimize the airport system, right? There are several uses. You can use it to simulate complete terminals, like the user can build a complete integrated model from the road access to the curb, to the parking lot, through the terminal, with all its passengers processes, visitors, etc. But it can also be used to model isolated subsets or subsystems of the terminal. I think the webinar we did with ACI, where EBEA and Transoft model the security room, it's a good example on how you can use Archbird to simulate a subset of the terminal. In terms of who is using Archbird, well, Archbird is mainly used by designers, planners, airlines, and airport operators, and they use it to evaluate their designs, their processes, infrastructure modifications, expansion requirements, and many other what-if scenarios, right? And the key is that it helps the stakeholders to make better informed decisions before incurring on significant costs.
Absolutely. And from my perspective, something that you mentioned that we have been working on together, not only you can go in such a great level of detail when you want to test and simulate individual processes and components of terminal subsystem, but then also one of the biggest benefits, I would say, is the fact that you can account for the interrelations between those subparts and sub-processes. So for example, we can simulate and assess the impacts of one of the operational areas' performance, how it affects the other areas. And if you think security, how its performance can have the influence on the check-in, like in front of the process, but also departure lounge, for example, its congestion and the passenger flow after the security processes. And it just makes these types of assessments and such complex analysis so much easier. And obviously it's statistically sophisticated, so we can really get very, very refined outputs.
Exactly. It gives you a view of what's the impact of changing the operations of a part of the terminal in the rest of the areas of the terminals. So as you mentioned, you can see how a change in the check-in operations might affect the security, for instance. So it's the interrelationship and the integrated models that can help you with that.
Absolutely. And also in terms of technology changes or regulation changes, for example, all of those scenarios and what you mentioned, the what if type of analysis, it's just really great because it provides you the whole spectrum of features to make it efficient. Obviously, you don't have to go into the operational trials, something that could potentially interrupt the daily functioning of the airport. Instead, you can do it in this sandbox environment and you can check many different aspects. And only after you sort of narrow down the list of initiatives or the options that you would like to get implemented into your operation, once you have that crystallized, you can then proceed with the live operational validation of those and live trials.
Exactly. It helps you to understand how your decisions are gonna behave in the real world.
And obviously, we can go to very specific details of passenger behavior, for example. And this, again, is a significant advantage over, for example, like static models and Excel-based tools, which normally account mainly averages. With this one, it is much easier to account for human behavior, for the passenger behavior, because we can program and define the ranges of what is going to happen.
Yes, and something very important now that you just mentioned that, I mean, those are the concept of micro modeling and macro modeling, right? So the good thing about Archbird is that it allows you to do macro modeling up to micro modeling. So you can do the model as simple as easy as you want to make it fast and give you a quick results, right? And you can go as deep as you need to evaluate a process or a behavior, right? So that is that flexibility that it's also very useful in the tool, right?
Absolutely, and also the creativity of how you can use it. It gives you the very good basis. It gives you lots of features and possibilities, and then what you do with it and how, it's a completely different story. But it's open to many different approaches, which we really like. And the webinar that you mentioned, modeling the security lanes and security checkpoints, that was based exactly on that methodology. So first of all, we used the so-called micro model to model the lane performance or the pair of lane performance when a little bit of shared infrastructure is between the two lanes. And that effectively gives us the expected throughputs from such a pair of lanes. But then if we want to extrapolate that performance onto the macro model, we do not have to manipulate those individual parameters because we already have the range of performance, and the macro model then gives us a very good visibility into, for example, the queuing levels of the whole security checkpoint. So we do have this holistic view of the operation. Thank you all for listening to the first part of our today's conversation. We hope to see you next week when we continue our discussion and talk about COVID-19 impacts on simulation tools development and how these tools can play an increasingly critical role in supporting the industry recovery.